Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the ice, brought to you by our friends at Dokesbrook Fuels, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, and the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. Right before the Jets get on the ice with Nashville on your whatever channel, whatever feed you got, I've got a really good guest. Not only is a teacher, not only is a gentleman who supports male and female hockey, but he understands that what has happened to young players, both male and female, over the last 21 months has been a travesty. And hopefully we can get to see the light at the end of the tunnel continued throughout the rest of this year so that these players in the Thunder Bay Queens organization, from as low as the 11s to all the way to the U21s, can hopefully continue and finish off their 21-22 season. Dave Paddington, Patty, is a board member with the Queens organization. He has got many, many years of experience in Thunder Bay, a lifer of Thunder Bay, but also a gentleman who is involved with not only as good as a king can be, but the Queens as well. So please welcome on the ice, Dave Paddington. And there he is, the man, Dave Paddington. Now, Patty, before I get started, it's okay if I call you that?
Sure.
I think it's one of those things that, when you get involved in hockey, it's that nickname that always ends in IE or Y. I mean, my name doesn't end in that, so I didn't really have one of those, but my last name kind of went Tucky, so that was my nickname on the ice. But nonetheless, welcome to the On the Ice show here on ASTV. Thanks for taking the time. Give us a quick introduction of yourself, please.
Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. I'm currently a member of the Thunder Bay Queens board, and I've coached in the program. And my daughter has gone through the program and is now finished with the Queens for now. But I certainly see the value that the Queens brings a lot of young women in our community, and wanted to stay involved. I've been coaching since a very early age. I've been almost 32 years coaching. Various sports, a lot of basketball, a little bit of football, a little bit of rowing, and as of late, since my kids got into hockey, a lot of hockey. So my daughter, as I said, is off playing stateside, and my two boys are here with the Thunder Bay Kings, and I know you're familiar with that program, having our U18 head coach Jeff Riccardi on a few weeks ago. So very happy to be here, and I appreciate you reaching out.
Before we get to the Queens program, talk to me how exciting it was for your boys to hear the news at the beginning of this fall to go play in Toronto and to step up to not only the travel, the airplanes, the air miles, but also the experience to go play teams in the GTA area.
Yeah, for our boys to have a chance, my son EJ is playing on the U18s, and they're a regular participant in the GTHL for the year, and we were all very excited about that. It gives a little bit of grounding to the program. You're in a league that is well regarded, and it's going to give those boys a lot of opportunity to be seen and to show what they can do. And I don't think I have to sell anybody on the quality of hockey players that come out of Thunder Bay. And it just gives our boys a chance to showcase what they can do, especially in a high profile league like the GTHL.
Thunder Bay, geographically speaking, would you still consider that Northwestern Ontario, or has that moved on a little bit away from there?
Well, I think we're Northwestern Ontario, and the thing about Thunder Bay geographically is we're an island. Winnipeg's, let's say, 7 to 8 hours drive away, and the Soo is 7 to 8 hours away, and Minneapolis is 5.5. So we're kind of on our own. And between those places, between the Soo and Thunder Bay, there's really nothing. Some small towns, and between Thunder Bay and Winnipeg, there's Dryden and Kenora along the way, but again, small towns. And so we're kind of bound by our geography, and to your point earlier, to throw our kids on a plane and let them go down to Toronto for a weekend, it's awesome for them. And my youngest son plays on the U13s, and so they get a couple of exhibition series planned. One of them was going to be this coming weekend, but unfortunately with COVID restrictions, I think they'll have a makeup date at some point based on the announcement today, hopefully sooner than later.
Absolutely. No, we look forward to, like I said, it's unfortunate that these young children just can't get on the ice. And I mean, spectators aside, they need that game. They need the game that they love, because you hate to see them lose it for an outside factor that, quite frankly, is non-existent. As far as I'm concerned, I won't go down that path. I'm going to continue with what we got to do, Dave.
Right.
Let's talk about the Queen's organization. Very well structured, not just one team. We've got AA, we've got A level, we've got as young as 11s and 13s, and we've also got a U21 program that just started up this year. Talk to me a little bit about how this organization works within the community as well as the volunteers that sit on the board and the coaching staffs.
Yeah, we have a lot of great people. It's like every hockey organization across our country. There's so many good people who put their time forward and really do it for nothing, not even a pat on the back, often quite the opposite sometimes. And we added the U8 or the U21 program this year. And as I said to you earlier, there's we saw a hole to be filled with, unfortunately, I think, as I term them, the COVID casualty of Lakehead University women's hockey, which was playing in the ACHA in the States, and they did not renew their program. And then the college program, the Thunderhawks, they had a program as well that also fell by the wayside, and we saw a need. And I personally, I know a lot of those kids that are at that U21 age because a lot of them played with my daughter or, have been around the program since they were young, and you get to know those kids and families. And there was definitely a want to continue to play. And we took the opportunity to fill that hole. And it's been very successful. Our coach at the U21 is Frank Felice, who's got a lot of experience here in Thunder Bay coaching. And they've had a successful season for sure. They were in the Sioux and had an exhibition series there and exhibition series here in town. And it's really good for our U18 program for them to have somebody else to play, because again, the geography is always a limiting factor living here in Thunder Bay.
No doubt. How far does the Thunder Bay Queens program reach to? Like, do we get players from Dryden? Do we get players as far as, I don't want to say Kenora, but I mean, do we get a little bit of a geographical coverage having this Queens program available to female hockey players?
It's certainly open to anybody. And I know we had a player from Dryden who played with my daughter at one time. We have kids come for tryouts often, and then it's up to the parents if they're going to have a chance to play on that team. The coach will have that conversation with the parents and see where it goes. It's when you're talking about, a 13 or 14-year-old leaving home, it's a bit young, but if it's the right fit, and it's we've also had a lot of kids from Atikokan, actually, which is not all that far away. It's about an hour and a half, but we've had some really good players come and play with the Queens from Atikokan. They must do some good things there with their minors, with their young kids. So,
right. We know that the Kings program travels extensively, or did travel extensively prior to this pandemic. But with the Queens program, are they seeing the same type of tournaments all over North America, just the same?
Yeah, I think it's similar. The Queens, we've often had the same struggles where you want to find an area that's grounded. We've played Pilot Mound. I think you mentioned them earlier on, and going to the Winnipeg tournaments and some of the showcases out west there have been successful. I know Alexis, my daughter, had played in a lot of those, and they were really, really great. Certainly had stateside a lot, and we played the Edinas and Minnetonkas of the world, and I've had lots of success down there and lots of exposure. And then certainly we like to play in Ontario as well, where you head down to Brampton for the big showcase tournaments, or the Stony Creek showcase tournament. Some massive tournaments where you almost can't spit without hitting somebody with a jacket on who's there watching kids.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the atmosphere, the feel. Let's go back to the fall of 21 here. Season's starting. We're regular season's getting going. How excited were the teams to finally get back on the ice to playing hockey the way it's supposed to be played, and with some spectators and whatnot in the stands?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was the same all across the country, although Ontario seems to have a little bit tougher time getting ourselves opened up than a lot of the places in this country. But the kids were obviously very excited. Coaches were very excited. There were kids who, you hadn't seen in it almost seemed like 2 or 3 years, which I guess is a bit of an exaggeration, but it felt that way. And to get everybody back in the rink and back up and running and tryouts, there was a buzz, and a lot of those things that happen organically where, a kid comes out of nowhere because, they just grow or whatever. They put extra work in or whatever. It almost became more so because all of a sudden this kid who maybe hadn't made a team before was suddenly one of the top players on the ice because, her and her family had, made a commitment to putting some time in off the ice or through COVID, which was tough enough. You hear of a lot of kids not doing anything, which is really sad. I'm sure you'd agree. And but I think seeing their smiles and seeing them back with their teammates, which is really, I say it all the time, that's where they should be. And they should be there with their coaches. And they should, and those kids need those coaches. They need those people as other role models in their lives, and they need their friends in the locker room, and they need to get into a little trouble, not too much trouble, but a little bit's okay. So
just as long as you can bend the rules, right, Dave?
Right.
Just as long as you don't miss class. That's
right.
the big key. Real quick before we go to break, I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to be as candid as possible, Dave. Female hockey players, male hockey players, should they be considered a difference? And if not, why?
That's a really good question. And I actually get asked this question by parents a lot, particularly on the girls' side, where they're like, well, should my daughter continue to play boys hockey? Because they'll often start with boys. And my opinion when my daughter was 10 to my opinion when my daughter is now 18 is a little bit different. It's a different game. I think that's a fair comment because there's not as much contact. There's a lot of contact in girls hockey, but it's a different kind of contact, right? I don't fear for my daughter getting her head taken off, whereas sometimes that could happen in a boys game, right? So I think what I found, the choice we made as a family, and everybody's going to make their own choices. Alexis played boys hockey from the age of 4 until she was 10, and we were going to continue with her playing Pee Wee boys. And literally the morning of the Queen's tryouts, when she was 11, I went and woke her up and I said, let's go to tryouts and you can just go and skate and see how it goes. And she went, and it was probably the best decision we made, because what I found was that as an 11-year-old playing with the Queens, she had an opportunity to have the puck a ton more than she ever would have playing Pee Wee boys. And so I think, whereas, you'll get maybe a little bit more aggression and you'll get a little bit more physicality with the boys game. I think that puck touch is so important, and it's the difference maker when it comes to girls who can handle the puck and girls who can make plays and girls who can score. That's the difference maker when you're trying to get to the next level.
And I certainly think you'd agree, by more puck touches, more ice time, more involvement with the team aspect of it, you build more confidence. And with more confidence on the ice, it directly relates to your confidence off the ice. And I think we're going to talk about that after the break, when we talk about the importance of raising female hockey players just with the same goals as males, but also with the intentions that there is life after hockey. And we have to continue to teach that. Stay with us here on the ice. Dave Paddington with the Thunder Bay Queens joining us here on the ice. Back here on the ice with Dave Paddington of the Thunder Bay Queens. Dave, we're going to talk about your daughter in a couple minutes, because there's a great story about that. But more importantly, as well, just as important, raising student athletes. And I've been a proponent of student athletes. My brother's been a proponent of student athletes. I will preach until I'm 6 feet deep that if you have an opportunity to play a sport and to take care of your education financially, whether it's hockey or any sport, go and do it, because you're never going to have that opportunity ever again. How important is it for females to realize and assess that there is, should they decide to spread their wings outside of Thunder Bay and play hockey some more in whatever league, to go and do it?
Yeah, it's super important for, I think, all athletes to be striving for the best they can be, whatever that means. And it sounds very cliche, but I think you're going to have your elite players that are clear to everybody. And you're going to have those kids that just work. And you're going to have the kids who maybe struggle a bit. But I think every player on a team will gain immeasurable value from playing sports. And I don't know what kid is going to become the sport leader in my community next. It could be any kid on that team. It could be a single A player, a double A player, best player in the city. You don't know. And certainly pushing, or not pushing, but promoting post-secondary athletics at whatever level, I would recommend it to anybody. It doesn't it doesn't have to be D1, or it doesn't have to be your top Canadian leagues, or it doesn't have to be the PWPHA. It can be a D3 program in Pittsburgh. The experiences, the friendships, the growth that can be obtained by these kids playing sport is immeasurable.
We look at, if you want to look at the upper echelon, the top percentage of female hockey players, it's playing for a nation, playing youth sports or playing D1. You look at the NHL, it's for the boys, or playing overseas in professional elite leagues there. How important, like you said, is it to have the PWPHA and to have women's professional leagues available in conjunction and being supported with better finances and salaries so that they can maybe make this more of a full-time commitment and not have to struggle with finances, even though they want to continue with a career and a passion in a game they love.
Right. I would love to see a partnership with the NHL and one of the women's pro leagues, much like the WNBA has. I think that would go miles and miles for women's hockey in particular. The holdup has been a bit of a clash between two factions, and I hope they can figure that out. And I think that that's starting to happen, and we can only keep our fingers crossed. And I think that's what the holdup is for the NHL to get involved, is they don't want to get in the middle of something. So
they don't want to pick one versus the other. They don't want to make that mistake, and they would rather work with one entire entity that is supporting female hockey on a whole. And I 100% agree with you that you want to take politics out of it, and you want to take the sponsorships and make them available to the female game just as much as the NHL. But we need to make these arrangements and these concessions first. Yeah. And I think that in the coming years, I think that will be something more prevalent and prominent all over North America. Because I've spoken with a lot of great female players in Nashville, in Texas, in California, where the game is growing immensely. And it should be growing just the same here in Canada. We talked a little about the U21 program, that it's in its first year, filling the void. How does that work in relation with the U18s, giving them potentially another home, another couple of years after their U18 year, but also still preparing them should they decide to go to that next level, whatever the case, whatever that is?
Well, it remains to be seen what will happen with the girls who are in that program now. Like, they don't lose any eligibility. So if you were to, for example, if you're in Thunder Bay now and you go to take your, postgraduate degree at 22 or 23, it seems so young, down the road at University of Manitoba, and try and jump on with their team. Those kids have been playing. And, there's a lot of unbelievably good U sports programs in this country for women's hockey. And I think a lot of people in our country lose sight of that because everybody's so focused on D1. Yeah. But U sports programs are extremely well run. They've got outstanding coaches. Dan Church coaches at York University. Caroline Ouellette's coaching in Quebec. The school's escaping me right now. But these are top of the top coaches and people. And it's something we should keep our eye on our own country too.
Let's bring this discussion into the house now, Dave, and let's talk about your relationship with your daughter, sending her. Is this her first year in Minnesota? And what was it like to see her spread her wings for the first time and go south of the border?
Yeah, it's been really tough. If I was honest with you, it's like COVID has thrown. Alexis is at Minnesota State with the Mavericks, and John Harrington's the coach there. Outstanding person, along with Sherry Dickerman and Jeff Geeson. So Alexis's story is rather unique because she committed just before her 15-year-old year as her first year midget, or first year of U18. So she had just turned 15 when she committed, and which is young. And in fact, now the rules have changed, pushes that back a little bit. So, you're sort of taking a leap of faith as a family, and it was really her decision. But at the same time, a lot of guidance when a kid's 15, right? So, and then she played her full season or almost her full season, and she actually injured her knee. Played provincials and then came back the next fall, and provincials was canceled because of the first COVID as a 16-year-old. And she missed some of that season because of this knee injury as well. And so COVID took a big bite out of Alexis's hockey world. And thank our lucky stars that she was noticed before COVID happened, because it puts a lot of question marks in place for really good hockey players that are looking for places to play. And credit to the Minnesota State coaching staff, because they stuck with her. And in a lot of ways, she didn't really play almost for a year. And last spring they had spring camp, and the freshmen because of COVID were allowed to go. And so she went in June to go to spring camp. And so we couldn't go across the border with her because of the border closures, which you imagine you're sending your kid who's just turned 18 now. Off you go. Here's a couple bucks and here's a car, and just drive and turn right here and turn left there. It's only 7 hours. You'll be fine. And so it was, I took a picture of her driving out of the driveway and was just like, oh my gosh, but they got to go and find their way. Right. So good support at school that makes it a little bit easier, but maybe a little bit harder on mom than dad. I'm not sure. And she went down and has basically been gone since June, save for a couple weeks and Christmas. And she's having a ball.
I'm surprised you're not wearing a Mavericks regalia.
I thought about it. To be honest,
I was hoping you would. You probably have something kicking around. We'll do that next time, Dave. I know.
Okay.
Talking with Alexis, obviously that first drive down, don't have to worry about the TomTom. You got your iPhone. You got Google Maps now. How? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did she let you know that she was prepared and she was ready to do this?
Well, Alexis has been fiercely independent since she was born. Really, she would always grit her teeth, but then every once in a while, like every kid, she lets some things slip. And I know she had a tough drive down there on her own. And I don't mean she had a flat tire or anything like that. I think she just had some emotions on the way down. And at some point, as with anything, you have to trust the process and trust that things are going to be fine. And I say all the time to my kids, what's the worst that could happen, right? You've got a good support network. The beauty of being a part of a team, and we alluded to it earlier, anytime you're at a school or you're a part of a team, you instantly have a support network. You have people on the team who will go to parents on the team down there knew we couldn't come down. The first trip we got down there was early December. So all the homecoming stuff and all the parent events where they're going to meeting and watching their kids. And it's the family that you know of in hockey, but we couldn't be a part of it. And that was hard on Alexis because she's used to us being in the stands and used to us, being friends with the other family members and all that sort of thing. But we had parents taking her out for dinner after the second game. And, it didn't matter. I don't think she ever went home on her own after the Saturday game. She went out for dinner with somebody every time, and somebody different. I bet she went out with 5 or 6 families, which is just, I feel like I would do that for somebody else. And I'm just so happy that somebody did it for my kid.
That's truly an amazing story because it just shows the extension of family with sport. I remember sending myself down when I was 18, my brother when he was 17. And you go down there and you've got a massive question mark. What's going to happen?
Right.
And I still have those relationships to this day, 21, 22 years later. So she's not going to forget those. And that's the great thing about sport. And that's the great thing about spreading your wings. And Dave, good for you and the family for kind of letting her go. Because, you always hear about what if she didn't leave or what if something happened. And,
right.
It's probably a blessing in disguise that at 15 she made this commitment. And it's great that the school maintain their commitment for her. How is she like school in the States? Do you know what she's majoring in? Is she enjoying school life, dorms? What's the lifestyle for her in Minnesota, and how does it compare to life in Thunder Bay?
Well, I have people tell me all the time because we'll have things on Facebook or on Twitter or what have you, and I get notes from people all the time. I'm so glad she got out, which is such an awful thing to say, but they're living their best life in Minnesota. Now that I've been down there, their games aren't canceled. They're playing their games. They're having their post-game parties or Christmas team parties and all the things that sport's all about. And I'm glad, and I know my wife Carolyn is also equally, if not more so, happy that she is down there living that and having a chance to live that, because we see our boys hanging on and waiting for the next chance, and let's get on the backyard rink again, and let's all the things that are, trying to be positive, but at the same time Alexis is in the WCHA, which is arguably the best women's league in the world. They're doing it all. And it's almost like COVID doesn't exist in Minnesota, even though the statistics would tell us otherwise. But yeah.
We talk about the boys, they're a little bit younger. They don't want to go have more ice fishing dates. They want to have hockey dates. They want to go out there and they want to get out there and not so much on Giants Ridge. They want to get on the rink.
Yeah.
And hopefully with this announcement that was made earlier today, we can see the future of both the Kings and Queens program sooner than later. What is why, let me phrase this better, how and why has it been so successful for this Queens program? And what do we see the future look like for the Queens in the upcoming years?
Well, we've had over the decades, monstrous success. So many great players. The Tugas girls, Courtney and Caitlin, Michaela Cava, Vis girls, who actually Shara Vis went to Minnesota State as well. Brittany Zubak. These are just a few of many, many successful young athletes over the years. It's hard to say what it is, but I think it's what's in the water in Thunder Bay. I think we just have so many successful hockey players, and it definitely bleeds into the girls' programs, right? Because when my daughter was 4, I signed her up for hockey, and I said to my wife, I said, well, we'll see if she takes to hockey. And I remember Carolyn saying, well, I don't know, maybe we should, she could go to the basketball camps or whatever. We were kind of I was a basketball coach as well, and my wife was a university basketball player, and we did that as well, but she just took to hockey. And we had her in dancing, and she just took to hockey. So we couldn't get her off the ice to go to dance class. She wouldn't come. She used to carry her little bag with her dance outfit on. You can just imagine how funny that was to see. But then she just refused to come off the ice because we used to split a little bit of hockey with dance because of the time. But anyway, so I think it's just that commitment, that family commitment. Like everybody in Thunder Bay that I grew up with, we all played hockey. We all played something. But we were all in the outdoor rinks, and we were all in our backyard rinks, or we were all playing in the same leagues. And I think, at that time, girls didn't really play hockey. But as that changed in the Canadian culture, it certainly changed really quickly here. And that's why all the names that I mentioned earlier and countless others, Haley Irwin, Katie Weatherston, who both made it to the Olympic team. That's the family commitment to a sport. And it's funny how hockey really, really drags you in.
Does it mean something when an 11 and a 13-year-old young female hockey player sees a picture of Haley Irwin wearing a Queens jersey in the rink and having those dreams and aspirations to be their own Team Canada player or their own opportunity to go play collegiate hockey north or south of the border? Does that matter to have that pedigree instilled in a program and to give them the support that this community rightfully deserves for the female group?
Well, I think it's massive. They say if you see it, you can be it. And when you're talking about young girls, they need those role models more than anything. And if you can indulge me with a quick story, like not a Thunder Bay story, but Caroline Ouellette, who I mentioned earlier. It's funny, I took Alexis down to go watch Haley Irwin playing in Minneapolis. My nephew and Alexis and I think Alexis at the time was 10 or 11, 10. I think she was 10. And we went down, and of course, Haley had invited us into the little area where you could meet some of the players. And so we met Haley, who was extremely gracious and what a great person, who's always giving to our community. She came and spoke at a couple of things when I was coaching the girls. She came and shared her gold medal with the girls and met with a lot of the young girls, and just tireless autographs and pictures. And anyway, and so as things tied up that night in Minneapolis, an exhibition game against the U.S., I saw Caroline Ouellette, and I said to Alexis, Alexis, do you know who that is? And she says, yeah, that's the captain. And I said, well, you should go talk to her. And I try to stay in the background as much as I can with her. Like, I just let her be her own person. And she marched on over to Caroline Ouellette, and I have the best picture. I can't show it to you, obviously, but Caroline Ouellette's about 6 feet tall, and Alexis is standing there as a 9-year-old looking straight up at her. And Caroline, again, tirelessly, I bet you she stood there and talked with Alexis. I'm sure she was holding the bus up for 10 minutes. And those are the kind of things I don't know how you put a you measure that, but that's exactly it. She needed, just like every other little girl, needs to see somebody who's doing what she wants to do. And we actually kept in touch with Caroline. I connected with her on Twitter, and Alexis actually went out to skate with Caroline and Julie Chu at her hockey camp one summer for a couple of weeks. And Caroline looked after billeting her, and all just unbelievable people. Like, these are things she didn't have to do. And I threw at that time, I think Alexis was 12 when she went to that summer camp. And I remember Carolyn, my wife, saying, but we don't really know who she's staying with. I said, well, Carolyn, the captain of Team Canada said that this family is a good family. It'll be fine. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
Absolutely. I think I would trust those words. I think that's a good choice. Absolutely. Dave, this is the time of the night where we say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, would you like to thank anybody in the community for their involvement with the Queens over the years? And obviously, I really appreciate your time tonight here on the ice just to discuss the importance of the female program, not just in Thunder Bay, but all over Canada, and the support that they need to continue and progress in their aspirations on and off the ice.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game to start thanking people, because you're going to forget somebody. But, some of the coaches that Alexis had over the years, Dennis Lavoie was a champion for her. Mike Power was a great influence on her at a young age. Rob Van Dyke, who's the president of the Queens now. Jason Mallon, Jeff Riccardi. I could go on and on. There's a lot of really good people who my kid and kids have been surrounded with, and goodness knows I don't want to forget anybody, because everybody who is a manager or a helper, it's you can't measure those things.
One thing I don't do is I don't play the orchestra music during the Academy Awards when they want to kick somebody off the stage, Dave. Right. I don't do that, but I know that I'll probably get a couple of messages saying Dave forgot me. Nonetheless, I really appreciate your time giving us and shining some light on the female program in Thunder Bay. Truly a great program. Hope to see both the male and female program back on the ice sooner than later, all over Ontario. And I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll chat again.
Sounds good. Dave Paddington with the Thunder Bay Queens program, sitting on the board. He's the media guy. He kind of holds himself pretty well, so they say. But nonetheless, really appreciate it. Bringing more goodness to the greatness here on ASTV. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Dokes Fuels, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, and the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. We'll see you again on Tuesday. Stay warm, everybody. And if you got a bit of extra effort, go shovel someone else's driveway. Just help them out a little bit more. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now. Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.